Thank you, Senator Heinrich, and thanks to my colleagues for being here. This is an opportunity for us to do a lot in terms of land and water conservation fund expansion and provide fishing access and ensure our states and local communities have the parks that they need and want. But it's also an opportunity to fix our parks, and this is desperately needed. Our national parks are in trouble. Just as more and more people are turning to our parks for recreation and fishing and all the other access that we have, 84 million acres of true treasures in America. Thanks to Teddy Roosevelt and then many others who followed in his footsteps, we protected all this beautiful land and protected and preserved our history. But there is a $12.5 billion maintenance backlog at our parks. So those visitors who go to our parks when they begin to reopen this summer are going to find that the trail is closed, or the toilet doesn't work, or the lodge has a leak in the roof, and therefore they can't visit. And when you get a leak in the roof, then you get the mold in the walls, and then you get the floor coupling, and that's what's happening. We haven't funded that, and part of the reason is that it's just so darn expensive. These are capital expenditures. These are infrastructure expenditures that require significant funds. So part of what this legislation does is finally allow us to catch up here in the United States Congress. It's a debt unpaid. In other words, we should have been paying all over these many years to ensure this hadn't happened, but unfortunately, for decades it has. So some of the funds being used here go directly into these beautiful parks and also to our Forest Service and our wildlife refuges, our BLM land and other lands, including some of our Native American lands. And this is to simply stop the erosion, really, of the beauty of our parks, and that is this historic level of backlog of maintenance projects. So we appreciate the fact that tonight we have an opportunity to finally begin to change our approach and to switch gears. I want to thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for helping us to get to this point. It's been a few years now since we started this. It's been through our committee twice. Lots of amendments have been offered, by the way, and debated. Lots of discussion. We now have the opportunity to make good on the promise that we have made to our children and grandchildren that these parks will be preserved for future generations. My colleagues with whom I've worked include Senator Warner, who came up with this idea of saying some of the funds coming from offshore and onshore oil and natural gas and other energy projects could be diverted toward these national parks to provide adequate resources to do this. And he's here on the floor this evening. Also, he's Senator Alexander, who's been at this for many years as well and a big proponent of the parks and has been a key player. And then also Senator King, Angus King. And the four of us have stuck together through thick and thin. I hope tonight will be part of the thick part and that we can get this done over the next several days so that we can indeed keep the promise that we've made, that these national parks, these national treasures, can be preserved and restored. Senator Alexander, do you have something you might want to add?
Madam President,